Escapism, a way to escape from the tedious routine of real life and find something that is missing from reality. Escapist media gives us a place to hide from the fear and anxiety of everyday life, an escape from our world and an escape from ourselves. With the advent of the internet and interactive media, we have been given new ways to indulge in escapism, virtual worlds where we can live radically different lives from our own. But is there any real depth to these virtual experiences? Are they just mindless escapism and wish fulfillment? Or are they experiences that can bring something meaningful to our lives? The events of .hex sign take place in one of these virtual realities. The World is a virtual reality MMORPG in which players can go on fantasy adventures and escape reality by becoming someone else. The players of the world can become chivalrous knights, ruthless assassins, free-spirited adventurers. They can play any role they desire, regardless of their age, gender, or social status. The appeal of this escapist fantasy is reflected in the diverse cast of characters that are introduced to us. The clips from the real world look discolored and their sound is muffled and staticky, giving us an insight into how the characters perceive their reality. The characters of .hack gather in the world to escape their dull reality and to give a bit of color to their lives. But many of them come to look for something more. Many of them come to look for connection. As the protagonist, Tsukasa embodies the two main themes of the show, the need for escape and the need for connection. He wants to escape reality because of the constant abuse from his father, and he craves connection with others since he couldn't find it in real life. He literally manages to escape from reality by getting his consciousness locked inside the world, but even here he can't establish a meaningful relationship with the other players. Tsukasa's behavior is contradictory. His character is a wave master, a support role that works best in a group, but he chooses to play the game as a solo player. Tsukasa craves connection, but actively avoids it because he is afraid of getting hurt. As a result of that, even inside the world, he ends up spending a good amount of time in isolation. Before getting stuck in the game, the world was a perfect environment for Tsukasa's tendencies. He could fully indulge in escapism, and even if something unpleasant happened, he could just log out, and none of it would matter. Before the accident, for Tsukasa, the virtual world and the real world were clearly separated and independent of each other. On the other side of the spectrum, there's Mimiru, the first player that Tsukasa encounters. For Mimiru, the net is just an extension of the real world, which is why she treats her friendships inside the game with the same level of commitment as she does in real life. Her philosophy is also reflected in her character design, as her virtual avatar resembles her in real life, since she is basically the same person in both worlds. As it's going to be apparent, she seems to be the only character that doesn't play the game to compensate for something that is missing from her life. In fact, she's not even sure why she still plays the game at all, and finds a renewed interest only when she decides to help Tsukasa log out. Bear is another player that takes interest in Tsukasa's case. Bear ends up being somewhat of a mentor figure to Tsukasa and Mimiru, as he likes to help out newbies in the game. His desire to help out younger players, however, stems from the failed relationship with his own son. As we see in episode 10, his son treats him as an ATM machine and hardly wants anything to do with him otherwise. While we don't know the details, it can be deduced that Bear partially blames himself for their troubled relationship. Bear therefore takes the role of a mentor figure, a role he couldn't fulfill for his son. BT is the one that points this out to him. As she puts it, his urge to help out Tsukasa is just compensation for what he couldn't do in real life. BT comes off as a cynical and jaded person, but she has a knack for pointing out the hypocrisy of the other players. Although their personalities are radically different, she shares a lot of similarities with Tsukasa. Both of them are looking for a deeper connection with others, but end up pushing them away. They're both wave masters, and both of them treat the world as nothing more than a playground. Just like Tsukasa, she sees the net as fundamentally different from the real world. In the game, she acts as a cunning manipulator, but offline, she's just looking for a genuine relationship with someone. That is apparent by the way she uses the game as a pretext to meet other players in real life, as that is the only way she can feel truly intimate with someone. Following her desire, BT teams up with Krim, but she fails to establish a relationship with him offline, because he prefers to keep the game and real life separated. In the narrative of .hex Sign, Krim is the character that best represents the value of escapism. While in real life he feels tied down by his job and responsibilities, in the world he can let loose and do whatever he feels like. In fact, Krim's player character seems to be the polar opposite of his real life alter ego. While in real life he's orderly and methodical, in the world he acts rashly and spontaneously, something he wishes he could do in real life. The world gives him the power to show his ideal self to others and share his joy with them. Krim uses his power to help others, however, there are some players that abuse it instead. Sora is a prime example. In real life, Sora is a young kid, and although he is precocious for his age, there is no denying that he is still immature. While in real life he may be just a kid, in the world he has the power to be on equal footing with adults. For the most part, he chooses to use his power to harass people, perhaps in an attempt to prove his superiority. While his playstyle and behavior are often unpredictable and chaotic, as a kid, the world is probably the only place where he can have total control over his life. A character that in a weird way parallels Sora's need for control and power is Ginkan, although he manifests his wants in other ways. While in real life he's a 23-year-old with a dead-end part-time job, in the world he is the captain of the Crimson Knights, an organization dedicated to upholding order by catching cheaters and player killers. However, he ends up abusing his power and tries to get permission from the system administrators of the world to establish control over the activities of the other players. Just like Sora and Krim, Ginkan plays the game to fulfill his escapist fantasy, but unlike them, he doesn't play for leisure. Quite the contrary, the way he plays the game reveals that he longs for order and purpose, something that seems to be missing from his life. Because of his extremism, he ends up clashing with Subaru, the leader of the Crimson Knights. As the leader of the Crimson Knights, Subaru tries to use her power to make the world a better place for the players, but her responsibility towards the Knights limits her freedom. It is precisely this longing for freedom that defines her character. In real life, Subaru lost the ability to walk because of an accident, so the world is the only place where she isn't restricted by her disability. Her longing for freedom is represented by the wings attached to her character model. They are small and frail, so she can't really use them. This is even reflected in her musical theme, aptly named Fake Wings. The world gives Subaru a false kind of freedom, something more akin to wish fulfillment. And that is the case for the other characters as well, as through their escapist fantasy they try to be their ideal selves. But even in the world, most of them can't quite reach that ideal. The world is just a virtual playground, a curated experience without much depth, an activity to pass the time. However, it does offer something that can be truly meaningful. It offers its players a chance to connect and learn from each other. Subaru finds a connection with Tsukasa, but is unable to pursue it because of her commitment to the Crimson Knights. The one who encourages her to act on her feelings is none other than Krim, with his free-spirited attitude and sincerity. And it is with that same attitude that he persuades Ginkan to let loose and enjoy the game without treating it like a duty. While Krim can't muster the courage to keep the same philosophy in the real world, BT suggests to him that maybe he should act more like his game character in real life. BT's remarks also help Bear take a decisive step towards helping Tsukasa. While before he did it more as self-gratification, after BT points this out to him, he decides to take full responsibility and offers to become Tsukasa's legal guardian. Even BT learns to appreciate her relationships with the other players in the world as something that holds real value. The world is an artificial creation that in many ways lacks the authenticity of the real world, but at the same time it offers a platform for its players to show sides of themselves they would otherwise keep hidden. While the world may be artificial, the connections that the players make during their journey are genuine, as these connections end up impacting their lives outside the game as well. At some point, what started out as a way to escape reality became a way to confront it and overcome it. This is also shown through Tsukasa's character arc. Tsukasa kept running away from other players that tried to help him because of his anxiety and fear of getting hurt. However, his desire for connection and the relationships he forms with the other players help him overcome his fear. The world for him was a place where he could indulge in escapism and run away from pain, but the people he met there and their shared experiences made it possible for him to finally face reality. In the last episode, Tsukasa finally wakes up in the real world as Ann Shoji, his real self. As Ann takes her first steps outside the hospital, she meets Subaru in real life for the first time. When they recognize each other, their grey and dull reality gradually starts gaining color. Thanks to their relationship and experiences in the world, Tsukasa and Subaru manage to find something that transcends the barriers of the virtual world. A connection that goes deeper than any bond they ever experienced in real life. So, returning to the original question, is there any real depth to a virtual world, and can it deliver a valuable experience for its players? The world itself is just a virtual playground, so it is up to its players to create meaning. The players won't achieve anything valuable if they are not ready to challenge themselves and open up to others. The roles that the characters of .hack play in the game are just other sides of themselves they are too afraid to show in their real lives, and by acknowledging them and accepting them, they finally become whole. Through their time in the virtual world, they find real growth, and through that growth, they take their first step towards what will hopefully be a truly fulfilling life.